Hi guys, I really wanted to come on and show you how to make a recipe that my grandmother would make whenever we would have unexpected company and she had to throw together a meal really quick because we always had all of these ingredients in the house. The nice thing about this meal too is that it's a complete protein and it's healthy and delicious. So the dish I'm going to teach you how to make today is called Enjedra. Some people pronounce it Mujadara or Enjedra. It is spelled a couple different ways depending on the dialect and where you come from. I'm going to show how my grandmother made it. My grandmother was from Baalbek, Lebanon. And so that would probably be how they made this dish around there. Basically what this dish is, it's a combination of your standard lentils and some rice with some savory spices. And I thought today was a great time to make it because I have just enough rice. I usually use about half a cup of rice to 1 pound of lentils. Now I'm going to be washing both of these. I'm going to be washing the rice to get the extra starch off and also washing the lentils. It's important that you wash both of these food items before you eat them. Especially these lentils I bought in bulk. These are organic lentils that I was able to get in bulk for about $2 a pound. Or non-organic lentils you can get as inexpensive as $1 a pound. So think this is about $2 for this because it's organic and about this much rice. And then we're also going to use onions. I had some onions that were starting to turn. So I'm going to use 2 because normally I would use 1, but some of this onions I may need to cut off because they're not good. So it'll probably work out to more like 1.5 onion. We'll end up chopping these and sauteing these in olive oil. I also have a bunch of garlic here I've gone through. Some of these cloves are not so great, so I'm going to pick out the better cloves and we're going to use those. I'll probably end up using, if I can get like 6 to 8 nice cloves out, I'll end up using that much garlic for flavor. And then I will use a spice mix, and I'll show you some of those. So we have, these all have very similar spices in them. And you can pick the mix depending on what sort of flavor you want. This one is going to be a little more peppery. It has allspice, black pepper, coriander, clove, cumin, nutmeg. One thing it doesn't have in it is cinnamon, which does taste nice in this dish. So I will look for one with a little cinnamon in it as well. This one, Ras El Hanat is also a nice spice, but it's also, again, it starts with cinnamon, turmeric, coriander, ginger, cumin, paprika, black pepper, allspice. So this is also going to give it a little bit of a kick, but it starts with the cinnamon. So these two in combination might make a nice, and this is just a plain old Mediterranean spice blend. You can also just use this. So basically when the lentils are cooking and absorbing the water, or if you choose to, you can use stock, vegetable stock or chicken stock. When they're absorbing the water, you'll put in these spices, and that will also flavor the lentils and the rice. So that is an overview of this quick and easy dish. It's basically lentils, rice, onion, if you have some garlic. You could also chop up some carrots, put them in, chop up some tomatoes, put that in if you want. You can put anything more in that you want. And then I recommend a Mediterranean spice blend to get the flavor like Enjedra, so that you get the Enjedra flavor. If you choose not to use this, you could use another spice blend. You could use a curry blend, and that would give you, a whole other flavor profile. So think about that as well, as this recipe could be a base as something that you could give a variety of flavor profiles to. So the first thing I'm going to do, you can start off this recipe one of two ways. You can start it by dicing your onions and getting those sauteing in the olive oil, or you can start by washing your lentils and rice. I'm going to start by washing my lentils and rice and putting them aside, then chopping the onions. So first I'll wash my rice, and I'm not going to show all these steps, but I am going to tell you these steps because it's important to remember to wash these items. Like my kids, they didn't know at first. I had to tell them when they were cooking. These are some things that maybe don't get passed down generation to generation. So, and I don't know if the bag says it necessarily. Yeah, it does says wash at the beginning, but not in big letters or anything. So I have this contraption. I have a bowl and I have the rice in here, and I'll be pouring water in and swooshing it and washing the rice until the water in the bowl stays clear. So I'm going to pause this until that step is done. All right, I just finished washing the rice and it's in this bowl. I'm going to just set it aside until we're ready for it. And now I'm going to wash the lentils. I'm also going to look through the lentils a little bit as I wash them, pick through them with my fingers, just to make sure there are no stones or anything like that. In today's day and age, there usually aren't any. I found them very infrequently now, but I remember when I was young with my grandmother, it would be in almost every bag we would find at least one or two little pebbles. So just to check, I'm going to swish my hand through, look through as I run the water through the lentils and clean the lentils. I'll be back. Now my lentils are also washed. So I'm going to put my lentils and my rice aside. They will go into the pot once my onions are sauteed and brown. So my next step is to put some olive oil in my pot that's right here and start that heating up. I use Kirkland brand. It's from Costco. I found that some of the olive oils in the stores, they did test. I forget who did it, if it was Consumer Reports or something, and some olive oils didn't pass. But this one did, and plenty of others did as well. But I would definitely check your olive oil brand to make sure that it's real olive oil. Evidently, it's one of the most adulterated products. I would say I probably put about a quarter cup of oil in there, maybe a little more. It's enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Enough to basically coat the bottom of the pan. And it's coated pretty well, swished around with a little extra. It's enough oil to saute one of these onions and hope maybe 1.5. We'll see how much good onion I'll get from it. So my next step is I'm going to be dicing these onions. I won't do it on camera and bore you. I'll be taking off there's some yucky stuff. We'll see how much I have left. And then I'll get the onions in the pot sauteing. Once the onions start cooking, I add the garlic. The garlic can burn if you add that too quickly. So I like to wait until the onions are almost done. So let me get started on cutting the onions first. Also, when you're adding the onions would be the time that you would add any carrots as well. I thought I'd just pop on before I started chopping to show you how much from those 2 onions I got. So I would say this is about 1.5. And then some little pieces. So about 1.5 onions, definitely not as big. So this would be, instead of 2 large onions, I have about 1.5 medium onions. And that's going to be plenty. So whatever amount of onions you have, if you have like 3 small, 1 large, it doesn't have to be the exact amount. It's just going to give the dish the flavor. So my grandmother would use 1 large onion this size for 1 pound of lentils. I'm using actually more than that today because it ended up being that there was more than that good left. But this is going to be delicious. It's just, going to have a little bit more lentil to it. And how big do you want to chop the onions? Well, how big do you want the onions to be when you eat them? After you saute them, the onions are going to shrink in size quite a bit. A lot of you guys probably know all this, but I'm just saying everything just in case somebody watching this is like, this is like the first thing they're making in their dorm at school or something. So I'm like doing all the details. So feel free to watch it double speed or whatever. So basically you pick the size that you want to have in your mouth when you're eating, right? Now, knowing that it's going to shrink at least 50%. A lot of water comes out of onions. So I would make your pieces no larger than this and no smaller than about half this size. Okay? So I hope that helps. I'm going to go through and cut the rest of these onions up in about that size chunks. Put them in the hot oil and I'll be back. All right, I got my onions sauteing. Can you hear that? Might be faint. I have my onions sauteing. It's going to take a little bit, so I'm not going to stay live or taping the whole time. But I thought I would talk a little bit more about the onions just so this is complete. The onions that you want to use, you can use any basic white or yellow onion that you want. You can go out and get the ones that you get in bags. These onions were beat up because my daughter had actually got them on the these are about to go bad area. There are some apps too where you can get produce that's about to go bad and you can save a lot of money that way. Especially if it's produce that does not need to be organic. And you can look at, for example, what's on the Dirty Dozen each year to find out what you can sort of bend the rules on organic-wise. So we were lucky. We got these onions super cheap. I forget. We got like a whole bag, and it had a lot of different onions in it, even salad onions. And that's the one type of onion I would not use for this dish, would be a red onion or anything that is labeled like a salad onion, because those are typically very mild because they're meant to be eaten raw, not cooked. And so they're not going to add a lot of flavor to this dish. So the things that make up this dish, you should be able to make this whole pot of lentils with the rice, onions, and garlic, and basically water, or you can use homemade chicken stock or homemade vegetable stock that you make. But you can just add water to this and it will have enough flavor because of the sauteed onions and garlic. You can also, if you have any carrots laying around that are starting to go, you can shred them up and put them in at this stage as well. That'll add lots of good vitamins. If you have tomatoes, I would not add them yet. So, but definitely carrots you could add now, and that would be a nice a nice improvement or nice add of a little vitamin A to this dish. So I'm going to go ahead and let these onions saute until they start to brown. And then I am going to take some garlic that I'm going to finely chop and add that in. I'll be back. So the onions, and I did put in some carrot shreds, are about halfway done. Now, I also wanted to mention you can definitely use chopped carrots too. I just got in the habit of putting the shredded carrots in because that's how I would hide them from my kids when they were younger. And I wanted to take this time while the onions are talking to talk about how I would make these for my kids when they were younger, because I would change a few things. So I would start the same way. I'd cook my onions and I would put in my carrot shreds, and then I would chop my garlic finely. So I do this in a food processor because I have a hard time getting it this fine. I like it finely, and then I'll add that when the other vegetables are almost done cooking so the garlic doesn't burn. Then, as I mentioned, I will add in the rice, the lentils, and the liquid. Let me just stir this. I'll be right back. I'll add in the rice, the lentils, and the liquid, and then the spices. Well, this is where things were different. Like I showed today, we can use the Middle Eastern spices and get the flavor of Enjedra. For my daughters, when they were little, I would use chili spices. And then I would also add in a jar of tomatoes. And guess what? I'd serve it with cheese and chips. And so this was how they had their lentils when they were little. They didn't know that I was making them Americanized for them. But basically, I would take this recipe, and instead of adding the Middle Eastern spices, I would add in the chili spices, and then I'd add in a nice can, big nice can of chopped tomatoes or diced tomatoes. Now with the garden, I could just add in a bunch of my cherry tomatoes. And then when I would serve it to them, I'd serve it with shredded cheddar on top and chips on the side. So there are so many different things you can do with this. And it is a complete protein because of the combination of the lentils and the rice. That's at least what my grandmother told me, that it's a complete protein with the lentils and the rice. Instead of the rice, you could replace it with quinoa. But I don't know, quinoa also has a lot of protein and it's a seed. So that is also another possibility. This is now ready for me to put the garlic in. The onions are translucent and they're turning brown. Let me see if I can get some out to show you. Sorry, I'm not good with the camera, but they're translucent and turning brown, and you see the carrots there too. So I'm going to get the garlic in, get this stirred up, and I'll be right back. All right, the garlic's in. I put in about 8 cloves, but I like mine really garlicky. So I would definitely say you could start with as little as 1 or 2 cloves, all the way up to 8, like I did. Garlic is going to cook really quickly. It's been in here a couple minutes already, and it's already starting to brown. I'm actually, before I add my liquids in, the next thing I'm going to add in is my rice. My grandmother would always do this, and she would let the rice cook a little bit in the oil before we would add our liquids. This seems to bring out like a nutty flavor in the rice. So I am stirring my rice in, and this is about 1/2 cup of rice for a pound of lentils. And I'm stirring that in with my onions. And I happen to have shredded carrots in this one, but that's not necessary. And my garlic. And I'm just putting my rice in there and letting that absorb a little bit of the oil and get some of that deliciousness. And then the next thing I'm going to put in is my lentils. I'm going to put the lentils in and saute them in with this stuff. And we're going to saute this for anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. It depends on how hot your pan is. You do not want anything to burn. And if you didn't put enough oil in at first, things could get sticky. So if that's starting to happen and things are starting to stick, go ahead and add your liquids, which can be water, chicken stock, or vegetable stock, right? So if things start sticking, do that. But if they don't, if they're moving freely and everything's cooking well, then just keep moving stuff around in the pot for 3 to 5 minutes so that the lentils get nice and toasty. So I'm going to move this around in the pot for about another 3 minutes. And then I'm going to go ahead and start adding my liquid, which is going to be starting with maybe 8 cups of water, and then another 8 cups of water. We'll measure it out, but basically the lentils and the rice are both going to absorb a lot of water. So we want to have the lentils and the rice covered with at least like an 1.5 inches of water over top. So let me go get that water and I'll be right back. All right, for my pot of lentils, I added 32 ounces of chicken stock that I had and 32 ounces of water so far. That brought the water level up to about 1 inch above the lentils. I'm probably going to have to add more as these cook. But one thing I learned is it's better to add the water a bit at a time. So now that I've added, 32 ounces of water and 32 ounces of chicken stock, so about 64 ounces of liquid, which is 8 cups. And I think a cup is, hold on, let me check. A cup is about 250 milliliters. So 8 times 250 milliliters is about 1,000 milliliters of liquid I added. Okay, so that's going to come up to a boil now. So I'm going to turn the fire up so that this comes to at least a simmer. We want bubbles to be rising to the top. This is now the time when you decide, are you going to commit to Middle Eastern lentils, or are you going to put in some other kinds of spices? And we are going to commit. So I am looking at my spices and I'm smelling them because I know how my grandmother smelled. But basically, you want cardamom, okay? You want cinnamon. You want a little bit of nutmeg, believe it or not. You want coriander. Let me see what else is in here. Allspice. You definitely want allspice. You definitely want pepper, cumin. These are the kind of spices. And so you can just get Middle Eastern, like a 7-spice blend. But the one thing I don't like about this one is that it didn't have cinnamon in it. Or this one, Mediterranean spice blend, 7-spice. A lot of times they'll call it something like that, like a 7-spice. This is also good. And I like this one a lot too, but the cinnamon is high, is the top one. So I use this in combination with like a 7 spice. So I'm gonna go ahead, and it's almost coming up to a boil, so it's time to get the spices in. How spicy do you like it? How much I put in? I put in at least 3 tablespoons. So I'll probably do 2 tablespoons of this and 1 tablespoon of this. The only other spice you might want to add is salt. This dish usually does need salt, and it also tastes very good with lemon. When we dish it out, sometimes we serve it with lemon wedges, squeeze lemon over top. It's absolutely delicious. So I'm going to get my spices in, and I'll be back. So now we wait. The spices are in. I'm going to bring you over. We're going to take a look. The spices are in. Everything's in. And you're going to see how it looks. It's like a stew. And as the lentils and the rice absorb the water, we're going to have to add more. This will end up coming to the point where it's like a paste if we don't. So we're going to watch it. If you hear that water boiling, that's my tea kettle getting ready in case I have to add water to this in about 10 or 15 minutes. So we are going to let this cook while watching it. I can put a lid on it as long as we don't want it to boil over. So as long as I leave it cracked and watch that it doesn't boil over, we do want the steam to be able to come out, and the lentils and the rice are going to be absorbing the water. And we just want it simmering it like this, not a hard boil, just a nice simmer. So I'm actually going to put this lid on and turn the temperature down quite a bit so that it just maintains that simmer. And then I'm going to check on it in about every 10 minutes to see if it needs water, and I'll let you know how much more I add. All right, we're back. We're checking on the lentils. You can see, I don't know if you can tell, but there are a lot more floating on the top. The water is going down, but we still would not add water at this point. It is still quite liquidy. It's like a soup. So I would let more of the water boil away and be absorbed by the lentils and rice. But I have water on hand to add. So I'll be back. For you, it'll be a moment. For me, 10 minutes. Okay, we're getting to the point where we need to be careful. Even though there's still a lot of liquid, it could start sticking to the bottom at this point. So you want to make sure that you're stirring and checking. And this is where I would start adding a little more liquid. And you can just start to add it a little bit at a time, because it depends on how you want to eat it. Do you want to eat it more like a soup or like a stew? This is what we're getting into deciding now, and that's how you'll know how much liquid to add. I will add a little bit more, and I'm going to keep watching these. You're going to want to cook these lentils for a total of an hour. And you can cook them even longer if you want, but the more you cook them, the softer they'll get, and you will want to cook them for at least an hour. These have been on the stove now, I would say at least 25 minutes. I'm going to add a little water to them and keep them going. All right, we're back. So, truth be told, after the first 20 or so minutes where you saw me checking the lentils, and I added a little bit of water, I went upstairs and took a nap. I'm still dealing with fatigue and everything with the cancer treatment, so I went up and took a nap, and my dear husband kept watch over the lentils and added water as needed. About how much water did you add?
1 more of these cups.
So he added about 16 ounces of water to the lentils. This is how they finished up. you can see they're a very good consistency, perfect consistency how I like them for a stew. And we will put like a lemon juice on them. I'll taste them for spiciness, and we'll see, do we need to add more of the Mediterranean spices or maybe a little salt?
I'm going to try it now.
Okay, Mark's going to try it and he'll let me know too.
Very good. I think it's perfect.
Oh,
Maybe
good.
just a little salt and we're good to go.
Oh, good. That's good to know. And so also the salt and the lemon will really bring out the flavors. Now you can see the color. This is how these lentils, because they are the brown lentils, they come out this color. If you use another color lentil, it'll come out a different color. Also, when I use, instead of like 16 or 18 ounces of water, you can put in a nice big can of tomatoes too. And that'll bring it and make it a nice red color as well. But this is great. We eat it with chips, and this is a complete protein. So this whole pot took me, let me see if you can see it, was maybe $5 to make at most. The most expensive thing was the $2 of the organic lentils, the pound of organic lentils, which was $2. They can run for organic lentils, it can be up to maybe $4 a pound. So, but regular lentils, they are only about $1 a pound, and that was the most expensive thing in this pot. So this I think would feed at least 8 people. And so if it maybe $4 divided by 8, that's 50 cents for a serving of the complete protein. So in the United States, you really can't beat that. So I just wanted to give you guys a nice, inexpensive meal. And this feels good too. It feels like you're eating something hearty, and it sticks to your tummy and feels good. It's one of my favorite dishes to eat. I don't just make it because it's inexpensive. I make it because I love it. So from my heart to yours, and from my grandmom's kitchen, I love you, and take care. Mwah.